Hey, everybody. I am Dr. Andy Roark, and this is the Uncharted Podcast. We got a good one for you today. We got a really common one for you today. The question that comes in is, help, I have a technician who is painfully slow, and neither the surgery team nor the wellness team wants to work with her because she holds the team back. She's nice. Everyone likes her as a person. She doesn't make mistakes. She knows what she's doing. She's technically skilled. She's not goofing off. She's not on her phone. She's not getting distracted or unfocused. She just moves slowly. And it's causing some tension on the team. What is possible? Can this person be trained? We tried to train her before, but she gets flustered and then she starts making mistakes and the wheels fall off. Can she be shifted to another position? Does she have to be let go from the team? What are our options? What do we do? Guys, that's what we're talking about today. Let's get into it.
And now, the Uncharted Podcast.
And we are back. It's me, Dr. Andy Roark, and the one and only Stephanie Let Me Go Goss. I have been listening to a lot of Cake recently. I love the band Cake, but I lost sight of them for years.
I feel like you're dating yourself with this admission right now, but that's okay.
Probably
Keep
so.
going.
Yeah, oh, totally. Oh, yeah. Wait, do you have favorite groups like that you just forgot about? Like,
oh yeah,
I've listened to a ton of Cake in my time. I just think I think they're so cool. Like, I like the horn. I like there's just so many things about Cake that I just enjoy. And also, like, they were around like in college when I was there, and so I've got a lot of like positive nostalgia that's like tied up with Cake and stuff. And so
so what brought them back on the radar? Because that's like, did they release a new album? What's happening?
So apparently they released their album last year. I had no idea if they did. But it was one of those things where I was riding in the car with my daughter, and we were listening to the radio, and that song The Distance came on, and I was like, and my daughter was like, what is this? And I was like, what is this? And like, it's been like 6 consecutive days of her finding out what is this.
Nice.
And so anyway, there's been a lot of Cake playing at our house.
Okay.
But yeah. How are you doing?
I am good. It is busy. It's funny because summer, I feel like, is gone in a blink of an eye. Like,
yes.
I do not know where the last month went. It just, I literally feel like I blinked and here we are. It's almost time for AVMA. We're halfway through the summer already.
Yeah. I dropped my youngest daughter off at summer camp yesterday.
Okay.
And it's a 3-week summer camp. And she loves it. She's so pumped about it. She loves it. Stephanie, I know it's going to be a blink of an eye and it's going to be time to pick her up.
Yeah.
And then the summer's going to be over. Like, that's, you know what I mean? Like, that was like, oh, and Hannah's out of the house, and bam, Hannah's back in the house, and summer's now done. Like, it's going to happen that fast. I can feel it coming. I think she was happy to go, partly because of Cake, but also because
she's done with you.
She is. But we are super tight. You know, I find stuff to do with her basically every afternoon. We get into some sort of project together. And so my helper's gone. But it is, I'll tell you what's the most fantastic thing, right? It's like, it's one thing to pay for summer camp. You're like, I'm going to suck it up and I'm going to pay for this.
Right.
When your kid starts talking about summer camp in January, like, I can't wait to go to summer camp. It is such an easy decision. Like, it's like, I will find this money. Like, I don't know, like, I will find this money. And then, so part of it is, I wish that when I was a young person, I had been, I wish that I had things that I had been like, or I had articulated to my parents who were supporting things. Let me tell you how much I love this. And like, talk about
done the thing.
And Hannah's also really great at looking ahead and having some in the future and just continually being excited about it. And so I took her to her first like NBA basketball game, and I got tickets like 8 weeks in advance, and she brought it up 2 to 3 times a week.
Yeah.
Every week until the game happened. That like, oh man, this is coming.
She's excited about it. Yeah.
She's excited about it. And it's like, I always say that you should be looking forward to something. But Stephanie, I don't think that I struggle to look forward to things. Like, I always focus on what I'm doing right now and like the stresses of this week. And I completely forget about things that are 3-4 weeks out. And something I wish that I did better was to be like, vacation in December. That's, whatever the thing is. I wish I held on to that more.
It's funny because I feel like I've always been a planner, which should shock nobody who knows me. Well, like I am a planner, and I was in the clinic as well, mostly because when you're the leader, like actually taking time off for a lot of us doesn't happen unless we plan far in advance. But I had a home life where my partner's schedule required that we planned far in advance. And so I've always been that way. And it's funny because I feel like since you and I have worked together, because so much of our work in supporting people in practice and in the industry, so much is changing so fast. And I feel like this last couple of years, we very much have had to lean into working in that style of what's next, because then when we plan too far in advance, then things change. Yeah. And what I have found for myself is that the way that I can cope with that and like not having a plan is having a plan and having the thing that I can look forward to. That's like, this is the thing that's on the calendar. And so I, for the last few years, have very much been leaning into the Hannah mentality of what is the next trip? What is the next thing that I'm doing? And it really does help. And my kids have been like that this last year too, because last year I had a pretty massive surgery in the summer, and I was out for 2 months, and we planned as a team, and everybody supported me, and it was great. But normally the kids look forward to going and spending the summer with their cousins. Like that's their summer camp, and they talk about it all year long, and they're like, I can't wait to see the cousins. And they have a shared note on their parents' cell phone, and they all share like, these are the things we want to do and restaurants we want to go to. And like they start planning in November for the next summer. Great. And last year they didn't go because my parents came here for a month to help me after I had my surgery. And so this year has been obsessively planning for even longer than normal. So I feel you on Hannah's like, oh, I'm so excited. Like, I can't wait for this. Because that has been the case over here. And we just got back and we had a fabulous time. It was wonderful. And they're already talking about, like, before we even left California and my family, like they already started talking about next summer.
Oh, yeah. Well, you've got something big looking forward to for tomorrow. Do you want to tell people about your new job?
Yeah. So when we're recording this, as you know, the end of it's the last day of June, and tomorrow starts July, and I am stepping into my new role as the CEO for Pride VMC. And so I'm going to start tomorrow with Dr. Mia Carey, and she and I are going to start a training and onboarding. And I am so excited to do something that is different. And, you and I were talking about when I left Uncharted, I got a lot of questions about like, what are you going to do? And what's next? And I actually was very intentional about not really having a plan because I didn't want to.
You didn't want me to destroy it. That's what it was.
Well, I didn't want
I don't have a plan because Andy will mess it up till I have to come back.
But more than that, like I didn't want to just take a job. And so, I lined things up so that I had a runway to really kind of give myself a break. And this kind of came a little bit out of left field, but I am so excited because it's an intersection of a lot of things, personal and professional for me. And I've been involved in advocacy work outside of veterinary medicine and even within the industry in a different facet in the recovery community for a really long time. And so I'm really excited to kind of bring a lot of interests together. And I really just love creating spaces in veterinary medicine where we feel safe, whether it's the safety within the team in the practice or creating safe spaces for different groups of people at a level like Pride VMC does. And so I'm super excited. It's going to be super different. There's a lot of imposter syndrome happening. Like, I'm not going to lie.
I'm sure that there is. That makes sense that of course there is. Like, but
it's
also,
like, who made me the grown up in the room?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a wonderful opportunity for you. Yes. I think it's going to be a wonderful sort of challenge for you that you're up to. I don't think they could have hired anyone better than you. I just think from all the reasons that you brought forward, the wonderful work you did at Uncharted and your ability to present. You're an excellent speaker and presenter. You understand, you understand how to run a business and how businesses operate. You are deeply compassionate around people and around vet medicine as a whole. And, your work with recovery is something I've always admired. I'm so glad to have you doing it through Uncharted. And now it's just, all of it just fits so well. And so I'm just deeply, I hope it's okay for me to just say, I'm really proud of you. I'm proud of the work that you've done and kind of the mark that you're making on the profession. And so anyway, I'm so happy for you. It's really a wonderful opportunity.
I'm excited, and I'm excited to get to see you and Maria at AVMA is coming up. I've been, it's funny because the conversation has started on social media where everybody's like, who's going to be in town? Who's going to be at AVMA? And I'm looking forward to filling my cup and getting lots of hugs and getting to see everybody. And things are busy. And like you said, before we know it, the kids are going to be back in school, and it's moving on. It is very, very fast, which is the opposite of our episode today.
Wow.
Today.
What a transition. An outstanding segue.
Thank you. It's almost like I planned that one. Our lives are moving very, very fast, and we got a great mailbag submission about a technician. And the number one question that kind of started it is, can you help an employee who is just slow? And I thought that the rest of the mailbag was so great. And so I'm super excited to talk about this one. But basically, they have a team member who is exceptional at their job, and they move painfully slow, especially in comparison to the rest of their team members. And so this leader is facing a case where the doctors want this person scheduled in exam rooms. The surgery doctor wants them scheduled in exam rooms because they're very slow in surgery, but the appointment doctors want this person scheduled in surgery where there's no next thing that has to happen right at an exact time. And
wait. Let's restate this. Everybody wants this person to work in the other department. Everyone, whatever department they're in, they think she should be in the other department. That's what's happening.
And the part that resonated for me was nobody, like you said, nobody wants this person in their section because everything slows down. And as their manager, the mailbag writer said, I've observed for ways to coach, and they're not doing anything wrong. They're not sitting around. They're not just kicked back with their feet up. They are doing the job, and they're doing it really well. They just physically move slowly.
I love that description. They were like, don't get me wrong, it's not like she's wasting time.
Right.
She just physically moves very slowly. And if you rush her, she will make mistakes. And she says...
She gets worked up and flustered. Yep.
Well, she just says, if I try to go faster, I get flustered and make mistakes, which I shout out to self-awareness, and again, I hate that that's true, but I would rather have someone who's I need to slow down to not make mistakes than someone who just plows ahead and causes real problems.
And does it and wreaks havoc and chaos. Yeah, totally. And so ultimately the conversation said, or the mailbag wrapped up with, look, this is a great person. They're a great technician. They're very skilled. So is it possible that we can coach our way out of this situation and get them to move faster? Or do we just have to either accept it and let it go and deal with it, or decide to part ways because they just can't, despite their skill set, they just can't keep up with the rest of the team? And I thought it was a great question. And I was like, oh, I can't wait to hear Andy's perspective as a doctor, but also as someone who has a tendency, maybe as the doctor, to get sidetracked and move slowly because you're doing other things. Like taking pictures of cute puppies and kittens.
Oh no, you misread. It's important to note here, you and I have never worked in the clinic together.
That is true. That is true.
Okay, so I love it. I love that you're interested in my thoughts here. All right, so let's do some headspace here. All right. I was thinking about this recently. One of the reasons that you and I are a good team, and also that we occasionally lock horns and butt heads, which is this, right? This is one of it's a defining feature of me and a defining feature of you, is that you are a relationship person.
Yes.
It is one of the things that I noticed first about you. It's one of the things I've always loved about you. It's one of the reasons that you are going to be so wonderful with Pride VMC, is that you care deeply about people. And when a problem presents itself, your first thought is about the people and taking care of the people. And I love that about you. And I am a goal-oriented person. I have objectives, and I have things that need to get done. And my first thought is, how are we going to get this thing done? And what needs to happen to make this problem solved? And so neither of those is wrong. But you have to pick, like, everybody's got a default. You're either relationship first or your objective goal first. And I know it sounds awful to be goal first. I don't think it's awful.
No.
Now, that does not mean you care about people. It's just what's the first thing that comes into your mind. For me, I am goal oriented, and for you, you're relationship oriented. And so when we start looking at people like this, part of the way that this sort of we're perceived is we have to kind of look at it through both lenses. And so the relationship part, and what makes this hard, and we're kind of laughing at everything, but this is a sad situation. It's also really common. I have seen this in practice, in my own practices, like in my own practice experience.
I was going to say, I am working with a couple of practices right now, and I have someone on 2 out of my 3 teams who I could have written this mailbag about them.
So it's just really, like, it's very common, and it's kind of sad. The relationship part is, this person is great. Now, if they weren't great, if they weren't a jerk, they'd be gone, right? This only works as a problem because the person is nice and everybody likes them and they're not, like, necessarily making mistakes. And so there's a relationship versus goal-oriented. And when you're relationship-oriented, you go, I have to save this person. And the goal-oriented person, myself, is like, I'm sorry, you're killing me. Like, you're killing me. And so my first reaction to texts like this, it's funny, I get things done in the clinic. I do take pictures with patients, but you better believe that those pictures get done.
You're moving.
And we are moving. I like to be busy. I like to hustle. I do like chaos, but I like to get things done, and I get bored quickly, and I'm like, let's go, guys, let's go.
That doesn't surprise me.
I can't, I mean, you could totally see that about me. And so I 100% feel the doctors in the treatment room and the doctors in surgery who are like, honestly, she's great. She should totally work with the other group. That's why.
I think you're spot on too about the fact that, like, the first thing intersection wise between the people and the goals is usually looking at, like, how do I motivate this person? Like, how do I poke them to go faster? Because you're looking at the skills. And I think this manager did a great job of starting with where I would have started, which is, looking at it and saying, slow does not mean lazy. And sometimes we have people on the team who truly are lazy or who are unmotivated to work. Like, they would rather take the path of least resistance. And I love that this leader said, I have looked at it because I care about this person. They're good at their job. They have a good skill set. I have looked at their performance and they're not doing anything wrong. They're not sitting back on their butt. They're not being lazy. They're not unmotivated. They actually are trying to do the work. They just physically are slow going. And so I think that from a headspace perspective, if you don't start there, you should, because it is about looking at their potential motivation. And in this case, I don't think there's a motivation problem. The next piece of that is, like, it is about pace and their wiring, because that is important that it fits with the rest of the team. Because when you have a team that is, like you said, very fast paced and let's get it done, let's move along, this person, even if they are beloved within the team, are going to stick out like a sore thumb if they are the only one who is moving at a completely different pace than the rest of the team.
100%. Well, I mean, if your whole team is slow, then we wouldn't tee off on Sarah. And I don't know her name, Sarah, but her name is now Sarah. But, like, you'd be like, well, everybody's like, it's frustrating.
It's not just Sarah.
Right.
Yeah.
So here's the unsexy part that we have to say out loud. Okay. At some point, how do you define success for your team? And for me, success for the team has got to, at some point, come down to getting care delivered. It just does. And the unsexy part, maybe the controversial part is one of the one of the beefs that I have, it's a small beef. I don't know if I talked that much about it. You and I have talked a lot about doing pay scales, and generally when we do pay scales, we base them on knowledge or skill. Does this person know X? Can they do Y?
Right.
And there's a bit of a flaw in that. And the flaw is really our practice does not thrive or struggle based on how much you know.
Right.
Or what you could theoretically do given infinite time.
It's how much you're getting done in the time we have.
It's exactly right.
Yes.
The defining feature of success in our practice is how much are you getting done in the time that we have?
Yes.
Like, what are you able to get done in that time? It is. And so I'm like, but you have to say this out loud.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you wrestle around with, I don't know, what do we do? And it is sad. It is sad when you've got someone who you say they're kind, they're compassionate, they're a good communicator, they are knowledgeable, they can do the things, they don't make mistakes, and they get half as much done as everyone else. Or, and this seems to be the problem here, and it's even worse, they hold back the rest of the team. Like I have a doctor standing around waiting, and my doctor can't move forward because this person is slowing her down. And you go, Sarah's not doing anything wrong, but that's a real problem. It's a problem in the frustration it causes the rest of the team. It's a frustration it causes the doctor, and the frustration it causes the pet owners coming in, and the impact on the business itself, meaning we're not getting enough done in the day. And so all of those things are very real. So regardless of kind of how we feel about it, this is something we got to sort out. And the last part in Headspace for me, when you and I talk about evaluating employees, I always talk about fit and skill. And so there's sort of two ways to look at employees are fit and skill. Fit is how well does this person fit in with the team? Are they easy to work with? Are they easy to get along with? Are they positive? Are they supportive of the team and where the team is going? Are people happy to work with them? And then skill is, are they technically able to do the work?
Right.
And so in this case, it sounds like this person is kind of a good fit, meaning they're good to get along with. People want to have them here. And I'm going to put her slowness under skill. And I'm going to define skill in this context as the ability to get the work done.
Right.
And so that's partly what do you know, but it's also partly can you move these things through the practice. Well, and so I would say this, if you go with fit and skill and you put them in sort of like, you sort of graph them out, there's sort of 4 quadrants. There's high fit, high skill. It's like everybody likes this person and they kick butt and get the job done. That's great. Retain those people. Do what you need to do to keep them. And then there's people who have low fit and low skill, meaning they're not good at their job and nobody likes them. Well, those people need to go. They need to be liberated to go find another place.
Yes.
The other two are where the interesting things happen, right? You've got people who are high skill, low fit. That's your classic toxic tech or vet. They are really good at their job, but they treat people like crap. And the reason that those people exist is because if they weren't good at their job, they would have been chucked out of here a long time ago. But they know that they're good at their job, and so they feel like they don't have to treat people with respect or they don't have to treat people well. And a lot of people are like sitting there listening to this with eyes wide going, I know that person.
I know that person.
I now realize who this person is. Like, that person is a high skill, low fit person. They get by on their skill, and everybody has to put up with their personality or the way that they treat people. And spoiler alert, you actually don't have to put up with it. But anyway. And then the other one, and that's who we're talking about here, is your good fit, low skill employee, which means everybody likes them, but they're not getting the job done. And so anyway, that's sort of where we are. So I sort of put this person into that category, and there are some things that we can do about that. But anyway, that's kind of how I'm looking at this situation. Stephanie, is there anything that I'm missing here from a Headspace standpoint? What do you think?
I think the only other thing that I would say is to our leader who wrote in is from a Headspace perspective, like your job, part of your job is matching people to the right seat. And so, this leader has said that they have observed the performance, they have tried to look for coaching opportunities, and I love that. And if you are a leader who is listening to this and is like, oh, I have a person like this, I think if you haven't thought about your role in trying to figure out where this person best fits, like that is part of your job, because not every good team member fits every role. The point of your job as a manager is to evaluate the needs and then the impact, because to your point, Andy, like they have to have the skill set, but they also have to be able to get the job done. And the team feels this, right? Like we're seeing that the team is feeling the ripple of this person's slowness. Everybody is getting frustrated at some point in time, and the workflow is being disruptive, and that counts too. And so I think from a headspace perspective, thinking about that piece of your role, the last headspace piece for me is that it's important as a leader to remember that this is not about character. It's not personal. It is about capacity and the ability of the team to work together to get the job done. And at its purest level, like it's not about liking or disliking someone, it's about the operational needs. And I think a lot of leaders struggle with that in two ways. Like they either struggle because they have that toxic person and they're afraid to deal with it because they're afraid of the shorthandedness, right? Which is the operational impact versus the personality. Leaders are also afraid of this scenario where they really like this person. They fit with the team. They get along really well. And they know that part of their job is dealing with this situation where they're not fitting in with the operational piece. And that's the piece that people struggle with because they care about the person and they don't know how to look at it in a way that is not personal. And so I think headspace wise, the last thing for me is to really lean in and remember that this is not personal. It's not about their character. It's about the actual performance, the role itself, and the duties that are required to perform that role well. That's part of the other side of your job, which I know really well. You know, you talked in the beginning about how we approach things completely differently. And I think the thing that makes you and I a really good team is that we both appreciate the opposite side as well. Like you are very much a people person and I very much think about the operational side as well. It's just not the first inclination to how we come at problems. And so I think that that's really important to think about the flip side of that, because as a leader, the other half of your job is thinking about how well the business runs.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. It's, you know, one of the hard parts here too is you're right. It's not personal, and you need to internalize that and remember it's not person. The person that you're coaching, Sarah, she's probably going to take it personally.
Absolutely,
you know, and I don't think people are just that way. It's just it's hard to have someone say, I'm sorry, you're not doing a good enough job.
Yeah.
Don't take it personally. Like that doesn't tend to work, even though it's not personal. But anyway, it takes some sort of internal fortitude. Yeah. Let's take a break here and then we'll come back and we'll do some action steps.
Okay, sounds good.
So for me, for action steps, I think you already sort of touched on the first part. Okay. When we talk about fit and skill and we have people who are good fit, low skill, I always ask the audience that we're sort of lecturing to and go, what do you do with these people? And everybody goes, train them. And I'm like, oh, no, I never thought of that. Like, that's obviously, that's the right answer. Everyone recognizes people who are high fit, low skill. And by the time they get to us, there's already been numerous attempts to train them. Like that has always happened.
Yes.
Now, in some cases, it can be done. Like maybe there's ways that we can train them, and we'll talk about that. More commonly, and I think this is where you're going as well, more commonly, this person is going to need a different seat on the bus. Usually what happens is, but I hate to say train them or let them go. Sometimes we can move them to a different place.
Totally.
Where they can continue to support the team. Basically, I mean, it sounds bad, but it's true. I'm going to try to hide them in a place where their weaknesses are not exposed.
Right.
But their strengths are out and on display.
Yes.
And oftentimes that's the right thing. Now, in some cases, this does mean a demotion. Sometimes it's about, and I say demotion in terms of like pay scale. If I have someone who's a licensed LVT, RVT, but they're not moving fast enough and they're holding back the team, I can't pay you what I'm going to pay my RVT who is rocking and rolling, you know, and that's not fair. And it's sort of like, ultimately our practice thrives based on what we get done in a day. And so someone who gets twice as much done in a day as someone else, like they should get paid more. Like they should.
I totally agree. And I think that you may have some really hard conversations coming up. And so I would roll it back just one click further for where we start, because what you're talking about, even just what you just said, we can't pay somebody more who gets half as much stuff done, or somebody who moves twice as much, twice as fast should be able to get paid more than somebody who doesn't move that fast. And I think the first place to start from an action step perspective is you have to define what faster means, because right now we're just speaking in really, really general terms, right? I could say to you, Andy, well, Carrie moves twice as fast as Sarah. Well, what does that mean? Is it the number of appointments that she's seeing? Is it that
number of steps on her Fitbit?
Her steps? I'm a person with very short legs. Every time we go somewhere, Andy is constantly turning around and going, Goss, keep up.
Oh yeah, but your step count is amazing. Your little legs just pump so fast.
Very short little legs. And so I have to work twice as hard to get the same number of steps because they're short, right? So this is where we have to start with, what are we actually talking about? Because if I just tell someone, I need you to move faster, that is so subjective. And that allows it in someone's brain to spiral into that personal. Well, what does faster? It just means they don't like me. They just want me to move faster. That's not really fair. So I think that's where we have to start, is what are we actually looking for from this person, so that we can set expectations realistically and help them define success in whatever role we're going to put them in.
Well, I love that you say that. And I love that you came at it that way, because I have the same first step, but for entirely different reasons.
Oh, good. Okay.
But I'm telling you.
I love it.
So for me, it's so cliche, but if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. And so if I genuinely want her to, quote unquote, get faster, one of the first step in any sort of training is to sort of say, all right, how are we keeping score? Like, how are we measuring this?
Yes.
And the trick in this regard is you have to come up with some kind of a measurement, ideally one that she could see, but one that's not going to freak her out, because we heard from the writer, if I push her to go faster, she gets flustered and she starts making mistakes.
Right.
I think me standing next to her with a stopwatch
it's going to freak her out.
You got 3 minutes left. You know, we need to get this appointment out the door. Let's go, Sarah. That's not going to go well.
Nope.
But to some degree, she's going to get to the end of the day and I'm like, hey, you didn't do very good today. And she's like, I had no idea.
What does that mean?
You know, or she's pushing herself, and is she actually going faster, or is she just stressing harder?
Right.
Who knows?
Right.
And so I'm right there with you. The first thing I would say when I'm starting to make a real push at this is to say, let's see if we can train her. And so what of that is, what can we measure? And so, I'm hoping I can use my PIMS. I'm hoping I can have a system of tying technicians to appointments so that I can count appointments at the end of the day. And let me just say here too, there's a million ways to game this system. If you've been in vet medicine very long, or you've ever worked at a place where people get incentivized to be tied to appointments that get seen, you'll find people doing some shady stuff if you don't have good systems or you don't know what you're doing. But in this case, it's not about an incentive. It's really just about trying to understand what's going on and where people are. So I would try to come up with some way of measuring what she does in a day so that she can kind of look around maybe at the halfway mark or even at the end of the day and sort of say, this is how we did today. But I think you've got to get some kind of a measurement that everybody understands. This is what we're looking at, just so we can start a training process.
And so my suggestion would be, because we know that prompting her causes her to either get flustered and make mistakes or cause her to slow down even more, I would not look at the number of appointments, surgeries, whatever. Where I would start with this, with the observations as a manager, would be to look at the important tasks relevant to being a tech. So the prep work, blood draws, placing catheters, patient turnover, but more like the turnover in the client care sense, and look at it without judgment. Because what I really want to find is the patterns. Like, what is causing the slowness? Is it decision-making problems? Is it organization problems? Does she need a system for organizing herself? Or is it truly the physical pace? Because those are things that I may be able to help with, give training on, but also set goals around that are not going to feel the same way as me standing outside the exam room with a stopwatch, looking at how quickly is she getting through this appointment and when is she starting the next one, right? Because that is immediately going to trigger what we know is the anxiety. So for me, it's about what are the patterns can I try and discern as an objective outside observationist? Like, can I figure out what is causing some of the slowdown? Is it that I have worked with some technicians who are slow, and it's because they are exceptionally methodical and thorough. And so they are documenting everything in the chart. And so that to me is like, that's a wonderful characteristic, and we have to balance it. And so that's a training issue. Like, I can talk to them about what we want captured in the chart and shave some time off without feeling like I have to, without them feeling the pressure that I'm standing there with a stopwatch going, I want you to move faster, right?
Yeah.
So for me, it's about, to your point, observing those things and that are key to doing their job, but looking for the patterns, because then I can speak specifically to the behaviors that I observed. And again, that helps make it not personal.
Yeah, I like that. I would pair your observational approach with a coaching approach. And so the way that I like to coach is there's a model. It's called the GROW model. So GROW. And so what I might say is, hey, Sarah, I'd like to sort of coach you on our efficiency and things like that, and just sort of talk through with you kind of how things are going and how we move through the day. Is that okay? And then assuming that she'll sort of go along with this, and this is ideally after I've sort of kind of done my observations. So the growth model is this. So G is, what is the goal? Mm-hmm. And so the first thing I would do is talk to her about is like, what is success?
Right.
What are we trying to do in the day? Like, what is reasonable? What does success look like? And how far are we from being where we need to be? And so that's where that conversation happened. R is the realities. And this is where I would ask her a lot of questions of, where do you think you spend most of your time?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What is the part that slows you down?
Right.
What do you feel like you're really good at?
Mm-hmm.
When do you have really good days?
Mm-hmm. What does that look like?
Why do you think that some days feel really good? What's going on those days? And you can see how I'm kind of digging around, but I'm trying to understand, what does she feel good about? What is she good at? Mm-hmm. Where does she feel like she's getting slowed down? What are the challenges for her? What is holding her back? And those are the types of questions I'm going to ask her, and I'm going to listen. I'm going to listen like a therapist. Like, I'm going to give her my full attention. You know what I mean? I'm probably going to make some notes, but I'm really sort of listening to this. So those are the realities. And once we've talked about what the goal is, and once we've talked about what the realities are, both good and bad, and we have a tendency to skip the good, and that's a big mistake in coaching. Yes. I want to talk about what's going well, how they're excelling, what is working, and then also what are the hardships. Why do you think those things are hardships? What's holding you back in this area? Mm-hmm. What's making you successful in that area? Then we're going to O, and that's the options. Okay. Mm-hmm. Given that this is the goal, and given that these are the realities, what can you do to adjust the way that you're working to move more efficiently or to reach this goal? Mm-hmm. What options do we have for working together? How could we possibly approach this problem and kind of reach our goals? Mm-hmm. And ideally, what I would like is for her to say, well, if I had an AI scribe, then I could save time here. Or
yeah, absolutely.
Maybe if I worked with somebody else, or maybe if I wasn't on this type of appointment, then that wouldn't be a problem for me. I'm open to anything, but I'd love to have a solution here. I'd love to have a couple things to try. I would love for it to come from Sarah, because she's the one who has to actually do it.
Yes.
And so if she can come up with some ideas or approaches, that's going to get some buy-in from her. It's going to make my job easier. And that's the O, is the options or opportunities. And the last is W, which stands for will, but I always think of it as work. What are you willing to do to make this happen, Sarah?
Right.
Like, great. Now that we've talked through this, I'm going to share with you kind of what I observed, and, we've talked about how we might approach this. What are you willing to commit to try to help us get towards this goal? And so that's the coaching model, GROW, GROW. Mm-hmm. And so that the last thing that I would say too is, I think where you can mess this up, and again, I'm being really optimistic here, but what I found with people like this, if I roll up and say, I need you to increase the number of appointments you're seeing by 30%, the wheels are just going to fall off. Mm-hmm. Let's take it slow. Let's figure out what our average was last week. and let's figure out what it might be next week. And maybe that's a 10% increase, you know, and it should not be a big, scary goal, but can we increase it 10%? And if we can, we're going to increase it another 10%. I'll let her know ultimately where we're trying to get to. There's nothing more demoralizing than you tell somebody, we need to make a 10% improvement in the number of appointments you're seeing or in your average client transaction or blah, blah, blah. And then they do it and you're like, great, 10%,
30 more.
Like that gets old really fast.
Yes.
You got to let people know kind of where we're going, but break it up into steps. But that's kind of how I would pair your sort of observational approach with a coaching approach. And again, I'm definitely coming to this in good faith. I want our technician to succeed. I'm cheering for her. I'm trying to help her figure out what is in her power. Because don't ask a beautiful fish to climb a tree. Like it's just not what they're made for. But what is possible here? How can we approach this? And so I think that's sort of how I would try that sort of coaching and growing approach. And I'd be gentle. I'd be persistent. And I would also kind of decide how much time I'm willing to invest into this approach because it's probably not going to work.
Well, and I think it's one of the things to go along with your grow model and like the conversation is to remind yourself as a leader that it's okay to say what the expectation is. Because to your point, like nothing...
Oh, you have to.
Nothing sets them back further than feeling like they're improving and then they're still so far from the goal.
Exactly.
So if you know that you need to be able to achieve 6 surgeries in a day or 10 surgeries in a day or 15 appointments in a day, like whatever it is that the team is trying to achieve, you need to be clear about that and ask, like, do you think that you can get to a place where you are supporting this with our support? Because if the answer is no, then it's a completely different conversation than you might have if they really do believe that they can get there with some support and changes and modifications, right? Because the reality is after you do the coaching and after you make the adjustments, you have to improve. Like the pace has to improve. And so if that is the case, then you have to be prepared for one of those two conversations. Like you said, it is possible for us to do all of this and for someone to be able to get better and get faster, especially if we're defining what faster means for them. It is possible to see significant improvement here.
It really is. It really is. But I love that you call this out. They have to want it. I was at the grocery store with my wife yesterday, and we were in the veggie section and we were shopping, and this woman came up to us, and my wife knows this woman from work, and I know her from CrossFit. So she came to the CrossFit gym for a while. And it was funny because she came right up to us and started apologizing for the fact that she was no longer doing CrossFit. And again, I'm bringing
interesting.
CrossFit.
Okay.
Well, again, it was like, I don't judge anybody. I don't care.
Sure.
I know it's a weird thing, and we always laugh about me talking about it, but like, I like to go to the gym. My wife does Olympic weightlifting.
Right.
It's just kind of a thing that we do. But this woman comes up and she's like, yeah, it wasn't for me. And we were both like, hey, it's like, I'm not judging you for working out or not working out. Like, I really... Like, you don't have to tell us anything. But it was funny, but she said, and the big thing was I got there and people were doing pull-ups and I can't even do one pull-up. And I just thought, I can't do this.
I can't do this.
And so she quit. And she was like, and that's why I quit. And I'm like, again, no judgment from me. Like, do your own thing and like find what makes you happy and do it. And like, zero judgment. But it was fascinating to me. And my wife and I talked about it later of like, the idea that she went somewhere and someone was doing a thing and she couldn't do it. So she was like, and I'm out. Like, that's it. I can't do it. I'm out. But that is a reaction that a lot of people will have. And so it is very possible that you'll go and you'll say, this is where the average technician in our practice is.
Right.
And, and this is where we need you to get to be. And it's not even where the average is. It's like, we need to get you closer to the rest of the team. And some people will look at that and say, that is a goal, and I am going to work on it. Like, seriously, there are people who go in and they can't do a pull-up, and they decide that I'm going to work on this for 20 minutes 3 times a week until I can do one. And then they do it. Sometimes it takes them a long time, but they do it. And there's other people who go in and see it, and they're like, I'm out.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not, can't do that. I'm going somewhere else. And I don't know what the reaction will be, but I think that your point about showing them like, this is what a pull-up looks like. Are you up to do this? And and there is a chance that they will say no, thank you.
Yeah. And the last thing that I would say is that having coached this person and having worked with this person, and I am literally working through this, like I said, with one of my teams right now, I think the last piece is, especially when it is a member of the team that is otherwise a good fit. One of the pieces we talked about was finding a different seat. And so I found really good success with creating some hybrid roles that take the technical skills and the knowledge and put them to work, to your point, in a place where we are hiding the weaknesses, but allowing their strengths to shine. And so for me, that's like those roles where a lot of, especially if you're a bigger practice, the air traffic controller, the person who can look at the big picture, who can look at the schedule, who can talk to the clients, who can help with triaging, who can kind of make all of the pieces move around. They don't necessarily have to move fast. They have to think critically. And that's a really important role, particularly in bigger practices. The lab and the pharmacy and that crossover in coaching and supporting clients, helping doctors with callbacks, helping with, that triaging, that's another place where some of these team members can shine. And I have had wild success with thinking about what are their strengths and is there a space in this practice where we can move them so that their strengths do shine. And it is also okay if you don't have the space to do that, because not every practice has the space to or the luxury to be able to create a role for someone. And I know I have talked to other managers who are like, but we only have one doctor and there's only 3 of us and I need them to be able to keep up. That's okay.
We don't need a pharmacy tech.
Exactly.
We don't need a pharmacy tech.
Exactly. And to your point, it is okay to create the opportunity for them to find that fit somewhere else, because it might not be with your team. And that's an important thing for both you and for them to remember.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with all that. I've seen practices take people and move technicians to be assistants. And you say, well, how does that help? It's like, well, a lot of times the technician is required to move the patient forward. An assistant, you can task them with something, but they don't have the ability to cause a bottleneck the way that your registered technician or licensed technician does. And so I've seen techs move to assistants, and I have seen some of them go along with it. I've also seen people go, you're going to cut my pay and basically take my title away. I'm not having it. I get it. But also, you can't keep being an RVT here, in practice. And then I've seen people move to the front desk as well, where they say, they're excellent with clients, they're good communicators. I really like your air traffic controller solution. And there are paths about trying to move them to different seats in the bus. It's not easy. People get their feelings hurt quite easily. Their self-identity might be wrapped up in the title they have held. All those things are true. And so it might or might not work. And the last part for me is, in the end, after you've done all of these things, you need to do what is most kind for everyone.
Yep, the balance.
And that means for Sarah, it means for the surgery doctor who doesn't want this person on their team, and the treatment doctor that doesn't want this person on his team. And, and for you and for the patients and the clients, and to say, I think the kindest thing here is to part ways. And the person asked, do we just suck it up? The kindest thing might be to just accept it and suck it up. Because if you say, this person is really slow, but they don't make mistakes, and we're getting everything done, and if we didn't have this person, life would be much harder, I would say, well, then, go forward.
That's a choice, yeah.
But yeah, well, it's funny. I'm reading this book. It's called What I Talk About When I Talk About Running. And it's from this novelist who generally writes fiction, but about 2008, he decided to write a book about the running that he's done his whole life. And it's kind of a philosophy book, honestly. It's not really about running that much, but it's how he thinks about running. But one of the things he said about running is that one of the first pieces of advice he was given when he started running was early in his life, is someone told him, pain is mandatory, but suffering is optional.
Okay.
And I think in this case, it's like, you might decide to keep this person. And if you do, the pain is mandatory, but the suffering is optional. If you know who this person is and what you're dealing with, acceptance is a wonderful palliative step.
Yeah.
And so anyway, but you have to decide what is kind. And as I almost always say, you have to choose how you're going to suffer here. Are you going to suffer keeping this person?
Yeah.
Are you going to suffer moving them to another role, which they might not like, or they might not stick around in?
Right.
Or are you going to suffer by letting this person go?
Yeah.
I don't have an answer for you. And honestly, the choice you make one year might be different than the choice you would make another year. And
Yeah.
the choice you make now might be different than when you revisit the question 6 months from now. So all those things are true, but that's kind of how I would navigate all this.
Yeah. Yeah. Woo, this was a fun one.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was looking forward to your perspective, and I was not disappointed.
Well, I think that you and I came around basically the same approach and same steps. I love that we sort of came at it from different reasons or had slightly different whys behind how we do it. But I feel like I agreed with every part of your plan, and I felt like my plan was pretty much in line with what you had as well. So I'm like, yep. When we both come at it and have different reasons, but basically still come up with the same general action steps, that's probably a pretty solid plan.
Probably a solid plan.
Yeah. Thanks, buddy.
Have a good one. Take care, everyone.
And that's what we got. Guys, I hope you enjoyed it. Like I said, this is super, super common question. The devil's in the details. It really depends on how we respond to coaching and what's possible, and is it possible to move the person around. There's lots of different things that we can try here. These can be really tough cases. It's really hard when you're dealing with great people who know their stuff and are great to be around, but they're just not reaching the level of productivity that's required to be on the team. That's sad. Sometimes it's just what it is. Sometimes there's a way to get the person into a position that's going to work for them. We got to try some things and see. So anyway, guys, I hope you found this episode interesting. Thanks for being here. I'll talk to you guys later on.